Welcome to this explainer. As physical therapists, we're constantly evaluating our patients' movements. We watch how they walk, how they bear weight, how they compensate for injuries. It's just what we do. But today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually turning our diagnostic skills onto the very technology that's promising to revolutionize our clinics. We're digging into a recent usability evaluation of an AI-based gait analysis system. Because, let's be real, a tool is only as good as our ability to actually use it on the clinic floor. Take a look at this. This is the MediStep M. It's a prototype for an AI-based markerless gait analysis system. And the dream here is absolutely incredible. The goal is to track functional recovery and get objective, quantifiable data without the massive hassle, the huge expense, and the giant space requirements of those traditional motion capture labs. The idea is you just use a tablet, a mat, and a camera, and the AI tracks full-body joint coordinates while your patient just walks naturally. Sounds amazing, right? Well, here's the reality check. When a group of experienced physical therapists actually put this prototype through a clinical simulation, the initial vital signs check revealed a pretty dismal System Usability Score of 57. That is essentially a grade D. And it proves a really hard truth in healthcare tech. Even the absolute smartest, most cutting-edge AI algorithms are practically useless if the system doesn't fit seamlessly into our high-pressure clinical workflows. So, to heal this broken workflow, we're going to lay out a specific treatment plan today. We'll quickly compare the promise versus the reality, tackle 3 priority fixes: hardware, calibration, and EMR integration, and then finally wrap up with the real-world patient outcomes we can achieve once we cure these usability barriers. All right, let's jump right into part 1, the promise versus the reality. When we talk about markerless AI gait analysis, the core concept is exactly what we've been asking for. In the clinic, we desperately want systems that let our patients just walk naturally, over ground. We want fast, objective data without having to spend 20 minutes slapping reflective markers all over a patient's joints or forcing them onto a treadmill. We want computer vision to do the heavy lifting of estimating those joint coordinates and spitting out spatiotemporal parameters. One of my fellow PTs who tested this actually hit the nail on the head. They pointed out that the real clinical value here is capturing the invisible stuff. We have trained eyes for sure, but a machine can precisely quantify symmetry and tiny distance variations in a way we literally just cannot visually measure. But, and this is a massive but, all of that incredible clinical value completely vanishes if the machine is too frustrating or time-consuming to even turn on. Which brings us to our first priority fix. Let's talk about the hardware and the actual physical setup. At first glance, this tablet and stand setup looks super sleek, doesn't it? Like it totally belongs in a modern, high-tech clinic. But a closer clinical inspection by the evaluating therapists revealed some immediate, daily annoyances. We're talking about the kind of friction that makes a busy therapist want to just push the device into a storage closet and never look at it again. Okay, this is actually incredibly ironic, and maybe a little funny. A system smart enough to track your full-body joint coordinates in real time literally hides its own power button behind a metal frame. When you are juggling back-to-back patients, you absolutely cannot be fumbling around the back of a tablet stand just to turn the thing on. It's a tiny physical barrier, but it creates a massive psychological barrier to adopting the tech. So here's the fix. It's actually pretty simple. Move the power button so we can reach it. Put a clear battery percentage right on the main screen so it doesn't die mid-session. Make the whole thing wireless, including the printing. And throw in a built-in level gauge so we know the camera is perfectly flat on our famously uneven clinic floors. Just by doing these basics, we instantly stop wasting our limited appointment time wrestling with the stand. Moving on to our second high-priority fix, automated calibration. Look, calibration is kind of the bane of clinical tech. In a packed clinic with multiple therapists sharing equipment, we simply cannot afford to have our baseline gait metrics shift just because a taller therapist set up the camera at a slightly different angle than a shorter therapist. Manual calibration introduces human error, and as we all know, human error totally destroys objective data. The game changer here is upgrading from that clunky, human-dependent manual setup to an automated AI alignment. And the great news? The manufacturer actually listened to this feedback and implemented an AI auto-calibration that boasts 97% accuracy. This is huge because it ensures our data is reliable, standardized, and objective, no matter which physical therapist happens to be running the assessment that day. Okay, priority fix number 3. This is arguably the most critical one. Reports and EMR integration. Once the patient finishes walking, we're handed a report.
But as one of the evaluating therapists rightfully pointed out, we do not need a million-dollar machine just to tell us a patient is walking slowly. We have eyes for that. What we need are actionable, highly specific clinical insights. We need the system to say, hey, this patient needs to increase their stride length by exactly 10 centimeters on the left side to achieve symmetry. That is the kind of data that directly informs our treatment plans.
But getting a solid report is really just half the battle. We have to ask ourselves a very serious question. Why is a standalone system basically functionally useless in a modern hospital setting? Why is seamless electronic medical record, or EMR, integration completely non-negotiable for us?
Here's why. If a system doesn't connect, therapists are forced into double documentation. You test the patient, and then you sit down and manually type those exact same results into the hospital's main computer. This introduces a massive risk of data entry errors, and it absolutely drains our treatment time. Seamless EMR integration, using tools like automated CSV extraction and quick ID-based searching, eliminates those dangerous errors entirely. It literally gives us back precious minutes that we can spend actually putting our hands on the patient and treating them.
Which leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, transforming patient outcomes.
When we actually implement this usability treatment plan, when we fix the hardware, automate the calibration, and integrate the EMR, we're not just making the software prettier, we are directly, tangibly impacting our patient's recovery. Because when the technology fades into the background, the therapy takes center stage. By removing all that friction, we can focus entirely on the screen with our patients, just like one of the PTs noted. We can use that real-time visual feedback to motivate them. They can actually see their own asymmetries on the screen and actively self-correct their gait right then and there.
These are the ultimate clinical wins we're after. Because the manufacturer of MediStep M actually went ahead and rolled out these updates, like the newly added AirPrint, the unblocked power button, and that super accurate auto-calibration, we finally get a tool that truly serves us. It maximizes face time between us and the patient. It reliably tracks those really subtle symmetry improvements so we can objectively justify continued therapy to insurance companies. And, maybe most importantly for us, it helps eliminate the administrative burnout that comes from fighting with bad tech all day. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought to ponder. If our technology isn't designed to survive the messy, fast-paced, high-stress realities of the clinic floor, how can it ever be designed to actually help the patient? Usability isn't some nice-to-have luxury in healthcare, guys. It is an absolute necessity. Demanding user-centered design, pushing back on clunky prototypes, that is exactly how we ensure artificial intelligence actually serves our clinical mission, rather than just getting in our way. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this changes the way you look at the tools in your own clinic.